Hi there, I'm Drew Badger, the world's #1 English fluency guide, and it is a pleasure to welcome you to the third video in this mini boot camp for pronunciation. So far, we've focused on individual sounds as we practiced in Lesson 1. We focused on the blending of two words in Lesson 2, and in this one, we will focus on developing pronunciation through the mastery of phrases. A phrase is just a group of words said together, and if you listen carefully, even to how I'm speaking in this video, I'm speaking in phrases. I'm speaking in groups of words and I pronounce them as one word for each phrase. I'm speaking in phrases. I'm speaking in phrases. So let's look at two phrases and practice making these so you can develop a better sense for how to use phrases as well as how to practice. The first phrase is, could you ask her? Or could you ask him? Or could you ask them? We begin by just focusing on the pronunciation of the individual words just so we can understand it clearly. Could you ask him? Now, could you ask him? Could you ask him becomes could you ask him? Could you ask him? Could you ask him? Now, we're doing this because, again, when we pronounce things in a conversational way, we're trying to say them as quickly and as smoothly as possible. And really, we do this because the other person, typically a native speaker, will understand what we mean. So if I say, could you ask him? I'm speaking really quickly, but they understand what I'm saying. Also, humans in general are able to understand things much, much faster. So if you maybe listen to a movie or something in your native language, but if you play it much, much faster, you'll be able to still understand everything you're hearing. So when we take a phrase like, could you ask him, the first thing we do is really blend it together, but we say it slowly, just so we get the pronunciation of it correctly. Again, we always want to pronounce things in a phonetic way, and this is why I write the phonetic spellings of things. And again, the phonetic spelling is just what you might use even if you're not using the correct spelling, but you're still using regular English letters in order to pronounce something, instead of using something like the International Phonetic Alphabet. So could you ask him, if we say it like a native speaker but say it slowly, becomes could you ask him? Could you ask him? Could you ask him? Could you ask him? The same thing with could you ask her? Could you ask her? Could you ask her? Could you ask her? So could you ask her to come to the party? Could you ask him to take out the trash? Could you ask him to take out the trash? So when you're practicing this way, the first thing to do is select a phrase and then think about how you would pronounce it as a native speaker and then begin by doing it slowly. Could you ask him? And then once you get that pronunciation, you can start moving faster. Could you ask him? 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 And it sounds just like one word, like the name of a crazy town in America. I live in Could you ask him? Finally, we'll cover one more phrase just so this is really clear. In a minute. We have one phrase, in a minute. We've selected our phrase. We begin by pronouncing each thing like a robot would. We're trying to pronounce everything in a minute. In a minute. But again, if you think about this, when you try to pronounce it the robotic way, it really sounds difficult to say if you're in a conversation. In a minute. In a minute. So we've taken it like that. Now let's blend it together. In a minute. 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 Even if we pronounce it slowly, it still sounds more like conversational speech. In a minute. In a minute. In a minute. The T from minute basically disappears. Minute. 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 In a minute. In a minute. So again, you find your phrase, you try to pronounce everything clearly just so you understand the difference between what a more robotic sound and what a more blended sound is like, and then you build from slow to fast, just practicing the phrase over and over again until you can use it automatically. In a minute. I'll see you in a minute. I'll come to your house in a minute. I'll finish in a minute. So you can practice this phrase, and just like native speakers do, they remember this phrase, they learn this phrase, and then they can use it in many different situations. In a minute. In a minute. In a minute. Well, that's it for this video. If you have enjoyed it, do click that like button and do become a subscriber to the YouTube channel. And if you'd like to learn more about how you can improve your pronunciation and become a more confident, fluent English speaker, click on the link in this video to take our free English fluency quiz. It will tell you exactly what you need to focus on in order to start improving very quickly. And I look forward to seeing you at EnglishAnyone.com. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next pronunciation video. Bye-bye.